Alright everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new around here, my name's Jazz Vader, and in today's video, I decided to look back and rank every Season 3 in Fortnite history from worst to best. Now, just quickly, I want to mention a very important point before we start the video. I'm going to be ranking the third season of every chapter, not necessarily Season 3. This just means that, for example, Chapter 6 Mini Season 1, that will now become Chapter 6 Season 3, and also with this change, OG plus Remix will become Season 5 of Chapter 5 and 6 respectively. All I'm doing this for is so that, we don't have to cut out the mini seasons. It just felt wrong to exclude them. I mean, a couple of them are my favorite seasons of all time, so doing it this way means that we just get to have a little bit more. And you know what? More is always better, right? But hey, now we've got all that out of the way, let's just dive straight into the Season 3 ranking. And starting off our list is what I widely consider to be one of the worst seasons in Fortnite history, which is Chapter 4, Season 3, Wilds. I mean, do I even really need to tell you guys about how bad this season was? I mean, it was potentially one of the worst times ever to be a fan of Fortnite. Of course, if we're going to talk about a season, we have to talk about the map changes. And the changes to this season were absolutely dreadful. To start off, you had the removal of Anvil Square, which was absolutely devastating because it was one of the best locations in Fortnite history. This was a fan favorite, and they removed it for one of the most mediocre POIs in Fortnite history. So like straight out of the gate, this season was already unpopular with quite a few people, so there were people already hating on it. But I mean, of course, we're going to talk about the actual jungle itself. And yeah, this is easily my least favorite biome in Fortnite history. Everything was super walled in. I mean, you just couldn't get out of this place. You were super walled in. There was barely any way to get up these walls. I mean, there was maybe like 5 exits you could walk up. I mean, it just felt incredibly claustrophobic. I don't know. I always felt stressed when I was in this place. I mean, everything inside of this jungle biome, it looks exactly the same. You were getting lost all the time. I mean, every single location in this biome felt like the same location. I mean, nothing about this jungle biome was fun, and nothing about it felt good. And you know what? I'm going to pick back up on my point of not actually being able to move around in this location. That was a big issue the season had. It had zero movement. I mean, zero build was literally impossible to play that season. I mean, if you didn't have builds, you just weren't going to get out. You had to like walk halfway across the map. I mean, you could literally just get stuck here and get lasered by somebody sitting on the top of a ledge. I mean, we came from some of the best movement items of all time, from the previous 2 seasons, being the shockwave hammer and the kinetic blade respectively, to just nothing, and it sucked so badly. Prepare yourself, I'm going to give this season its single credit. It introduced the Mammoth Pistol. It's simply one of the best pistols in Fortnite history. I'm a demon with this thing, and honestly, it's one of my favorite guns of all time. I mean, it's basically just a pocket heavy sniper, and that is, in my opinion, the best thing this season introduced to the game. But I mean, when you're talking about this season, you gotta mention it. This season had a major content drought. I mean, like, new gen players are thinking, like Chapter 7 Season 1 was bad, like Chapter 6 Season 4 was bad. No, this season was absolutely horrendous. You had like a month and a half without a drop of content. Barely anything happened, and the season wasn't good enough to manage. Unlike something like Chapter 2 Season 2, it had a similar content drought, but it was good enough that it didn't matter. So yeah, overall, the locations on this map were mid as hell. The kinetic boomerang, which I gotta mention, that was the special item of this season, that was dreadful. The Battle Pass was one of the worst we've ever had, and it also locked away Optimus Prime in a Battle Pass, which was just complete insanity, I mean, it's just one of the worst seasons we've ever had, and it more than deserves to be sat down here at the number 6 spot on this list. I have nothing good to say about it. And coming up next, at the number 5 spot on this list, is one that I don't really have all too much to say about, and it is Chapter 1, Season 3. I mean, this season, it's basically just Season 2, Part 2. It barely lasted for 67 days. No, I'm not joking. You can look that up. That's exactly how long it lasted. It didn't bring much to the table. It only added 1 point of interest and some small temples around the map. I mean, in modern day Fortnite, which we are comparing this season to, I mean, we get stuff like that for a mid-season update or even just a collaboration. So it is pretty underwhelming, when we compare it to modern seasons, which of course we are doing. I mean, it did add some super iconic stuff that Fortnite would literally go on to be known for. It added the supply llama. That's literally part of the iconography of the game. I actually have the Lego set on my shelf. It added the remote explosive, the hunting rifle, the heavy shotgun, the clingers, the guided rocket launcher. Honestly, it just kind of refined what Season 2 was. Season 2, it was a little bit rough around the edges. Definitely very early Fortnite. It literally just felt like a better Season 2, which is fine, but I can't give it too many points for the same reason. It just felt like a pretty solid season overall, and that's why it's all the way at the number 5 spot on this list. It's okay, but it could be better. But hey, coming up next at the number 4 spot on this list is Chapter 6 Season 3 Galactic Battle. Now, this season was very controversial within the community when it came out, and I gotta say, it's kind of overhated. I mean, definitely not by much, you know. It gets quite a bit of the hate it deserves, but it still had a ton of cool content and a lot of fun stuff to enjoy. I mean, I still stand by what I said in my video where I ranked every single season against each other, and that is, even though it only lasted 30 days, which is something we have to consider when we put it against these longer seasons, there just simply wasn't enough content in the season to last the whole 30 days. I mean, it still lasted too long. I mean, what it did add, however, it was super cool. Of course, you had the TIE Fighters and the X-Wings, you know, they were basically planes from Season 7, but they were buff. These things were so fun, like you could easily take them down from the ground, and the whole re-life system was actually really fun. You know, you could actually take the ship from somebody else because it had kicked them out. I mean, of course, you had 4 entire new points of interest. I mean, some modern seasons, you know, you get less than that. 4 points of interest is huge, and some of these were super cool. Of course, some of them were a little bit mediocre, like the Resistance base and Darth Vader's Solitude, which was literally the exact same location but with an Imperial theme. But I mean, of course, you had, you know, the little Tatooine desert area. You had the First Order base, one of the best locations on the Chapter 6 map. Honestly, these locations were actually pretty cool, and they had so much loot in them. It was absolutely insane. And you know what? While we're talking about the weapons, yeah, we had an entirely new loot pool for a single mini-season. And of course, the whole gimmick with these items was, of course, there were laser blasters from Star Wars. There was no ammo in this season. Even though it did get a little bit old towards the end of the season, it still felt incredibly cool to experience. And it was a pretty sweet experiment. I'm just gonna rush past the rest of the content in this season because I don't really have anything else to say about it. You had the Darth Vader AI boss, which was super cool. You know, you could actually talk to them. I mean, it blew my mind the first time I experienced it. I mean, it was actually the 3rd video I ever posted on this channel entirely based around the Darth Vader boss. That's how insane this content was. Of course, you also had some more boring stuff, you know, like the nerfed hoverjet reskin and the return of the Mandalorian sniper rifle, which was mid as hell. They absolutely ruined it. And of course, you had the equally mediocre Star Destroyer transformable. Honestly, I think the biggest issue this season had is literally just the fact that it had 3 weeks worth of content and it tried to stretch it to 4 weeks, and it just made the back end of the season feel dry as hell. This should have been one of the best seasons in Fortnite history. They just kind of fumbled it at the last second, and that's why it's all the way at the number 4 spot on this list. But hey, coming up next at the number 3 spot in this list, it's a season that I actually like quite a lot, and it is Chapter 3 Season 3 Vibin'. Potentially one of the most just alright seasons of all time, but I hold it close to my heart. I mean, it had some of the most gorgeous locations of all time. The entire map just looks so vibrant. I mean, this whole season felt like a celebration. I'm gonna circle back to what I was saying. It added some of the most gorgeous locations of all time. I mean, you had the Rave Cave, you had the Reality Tree. You know, both of those were super cool, and they were just gorgeous. I mean, yeah, while we're on that point, the whole Reality Tree biome was super cool, you know. I mean, I loved the whole look of the place. I mean, the mushrooms were great for movement, and I thought the little locations dotted around this biome, you know, like a part of Dusty Depot and the huge wooden chair near Flush Factory, you know, they were really, really cool details. I mean, the Rave Cave was actually one of the best locations in Fortnite history. I genuinely cannot believe that was ever in the game. And we didn't even see Epic try to do something like it again until Chapter 7 Season 1 with Wonkyland. I mean, we also had some of the best items in Fortnite history released. You know, we had the Grapple Glove, one of my favorite movement items ever. Obviously, it's kind of like a nerfed version of the Spider-Man gauntlets. If it got a little bit of a minor buff, you know, give it like 40 uses instead of 30 and make it a little bit faster, it'd be perfect. Of course, you had the Hammer Assault Rifle, one of the best ARs of all time. You know, you had the Stinger SMG, the Prime Shotgun, the Ripsaw Launcher. Okay, we're not going to talk about that one. But with all the items that stuck around from Chapter 3 Season 1 and Chapter 3 Season 2, it just became an insane loot pool, and it was one of the best the game has ever had. I mean, this season had so many features that people tend to forget about. You had the switching points of interest with Logjam Lotus and the Butter Barn, which of course they'd switch from like different themes every single match. You know, one match you'd have like an ancient Greek theme, another match you'd have like a neo-tilted theme, and then another one it'd be like a Western theme. Of course, you had the return of Laser Lagoon inside of the volcano this time, and it was a goated location. I don't know why they did it, but I'm so glad they did. It was so much fun. I mean, even carried on with the features this season had, it had so many little features. You had the reality trees, you know, they were basically a more balanced version of tents. You planted a reality tree, you grew it from game to game, slowly increasing in rarity. I mean, I'd love to see that system brought back to the game again. And honestly, you know, that's the best way to describe this season. It had so many cool things that whilst they didn't quite come together to create like a top 10 season of all time, they were all still really cool on the board, and I would love to see all of these come back in one way or another. But hey, coming up next, at the number 2 spot in this list, a lot of you are probably very surprised to see this so far up here, and it is Chapter 5 Season 3, Wrecked. Honestly, I had an incredibly hard time choosing whether to put Vibin or Wrecked up here at the number 2 spot. You can totally swap them around, you know. I mean, I consider them basically to the exact same standard. The thing about this season, however, is that, in my opinion, it was just slightly more fun. I mean, the cars were insane, the Nitro Fists were insane. I mean, the Nitro item itself, you know, that was super cool, and the map was basically perfect in this season, you know, as perfect as the Chapter 5 map could ever be. I mean, yeah, let's talk about all those items. Of course, you had cars. I mean, that was the focal point of the whole season, you know, driving around in cars, getting car mods, and shooting the hell out of everybody in the road. I mean, it was a super fun gameplay loop, even if I can admit it was incredibly overpowered. I mean, I definitely did end up quitting around, I think, like 3/4 of the way through that season. I didn't get to tier 200. I ended up just playing Tears of the Kingdom instead. But still, the gameplay on this season was incredibly fun, and I actually really liked it. I've mentioned it, Nitro and the Nitro Fist. I mean, they were both incredibly cool items. You could just bust through players' walls. I mean, it was just insane. It was an insane season. It's like that one, like, Syndrome quote, you know, if everybody's super, nobody's super. Everything in this season was overpowered, which kind of wrapped around to it having its own weird, messed up version of a balance loot pool. It didn't matter what you were carrying in this season. You were always going to be overpowered. You were always going to be a menace. And it's easily my favorite season in Chapter 5 for that reason. It didn't take itself seriously. I mean, yeah, you also had some pretty cool stuff as well. You know, you had the Tri-Laser Beam, obviously part of the whole Fallout collaboration, which, yeah, I'm playing New Vegas at the moment, and yeah, it definitely got a major nerf. It's so much stronger in the game, but it was still decent, you know, and it was a hit scan, which was huge for Chapter 5. I mean, I gotta say, I do wish they did a little bit more with the Fallout collaboration. You know, all they really had was a gun and the Nuka-Cola. I don't know. It's not really my place to talk about it. It would have been cool, but it's in the past, and all I can really hope for is a Wave 2. You also had the Pirates of the Caribbean collaboration in the same season. You know, you had the whole mini pass. It was okay, I guess. The items it brought back the Flint Knock. It had the really mid-ship and a bottle mythic. I mean, it also came with another Lazy Lagoon reskin. I'm always down for a lazy reskin. It also brought back cannons to the game for the first time since Chapter 1 Season X. Correct me if I'm wrong, but otherwise, the whole collaboration, it was kind of forgettable in my opinion. The rest of the season was just super fun, and it never really felt boring, which is an issue I had with the last 4 weeks of Vibin, where they just didn't add anything new at all. But I'm sure, as you can all see, it isn't the best season on this list. So, what is? And sitting all the way at the top of the list, it could only be one season, and it is Chapter 2 Season 3 Splashdown. One of the most fun and unique Fortnite seasons of all time. Epic Games honestly wouldn't have the balls to do a season like this today. I mean, of course, this season came off the back of one of the greatest seasons in Fortnite history, you know, being Chapter 2 Season 2. This season had huge boots to fill, and I think it stuck the landing. And of course, what was the whole theme of this season? The entire map was flooded. You had super unique points of interest. Locations like Pleasant Park, Salty Springs, Sweaty Sands, they all got lifted up onto, I don't know, kind of like balloons, and they became like little raft-based locations. It was really interesting to see. I mean, the flood was super cool as well, you know, it literally vaulted some of the most iconic locations in Fortnite history, you know, like Dirty Docks was gone, Weeping Woods was gone, Slurpy Swamp, all of these locations, they were literally just vaulted for half of the season, and I think that is super cool. And obviously, when they made a return, you know, like after the water had finally gone down, I mean, it felt really satisfying to finally drop there again, and it was really fun seeing all of these POIs come back one by one. I mean, you also had the Fortilla, one of the most unique locations in Fortnite history. We literally haven't seen anything like it since, you know. It's just really cool. It's just really cool. I mean, you also had some of the smaller locations on this map. You know, you had all the rubbish islands that were sitting around the map. You know, those were super interesting. You had so many cool little details, like even the yacht itself that got recycled and it was just kind of sitting around the map for a little while. I just wish they didn't fall down the Chapter 2 curse of just straight up disappearing once the map didn't need them anymore. It kind of sucked just watching all these locations go one by one. Also had the reveal of the reveal of Coral Castle. I never understood the hate for this location. It was super fun, it had tons of loot, and it was generally really nice to look at. Of course, we're going to talk about the stuff outside of map changes, even though that was basically, you know, that was what the season was themed around, that was half the content in the season. Of course, you had stuff like the surf sharks. That was super cool. You know, you could literally just surf a shark halfway across the map. I mean, you had incredible mythics. You know, you had Ocean's Chug Jug, the Mythic Burst, the Grapple Glider, the Kit Shockwave Launcher. I mean, that item alone, it paid paved the way for moving items to be as overpowered as they are today. The Marauders, you know, the first map roaming NPCs. I mean, what an insane season. It was genuinely so much fun. Obviously, it released right in the middle of summer as well, you know. I mean, the vibes were perfect, everything else was perfect, and I loved it so much. I mean, this season, it felt good to play. Everything about it felt fun, everything about it felt fantastic. It's literally one of my personal favorite seasons of all time, and I think it more than deserves to be sat at the top of the list at the #1 spot. Alright everybody, thank you so much for sticking all the way till the end. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so any help is appreciated. I also just want to quickly mention, we do have a Discord server. Make sure to check out the link in my description. There's tons of minigames, tons of little activities, and you'll get notified whenever my videos go live. But hey, at the end of the day, all you really have to do is stay safe, drink some water, and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye!